Hello, hello. Morning.
Morning, Andres. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, guys. Hope everyone is okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Tiziana.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi, Rich. Nice to
Hi,
see
Rich.
you. Hi, Leo. Hi, Andres.
Hi.
Hi, Now.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Rich.
Hello.
Rick, um, just a comment that I will be able to just stay the first hour. I have to
Okay.
drop from the call in the last 30 minutes. I couldn't change my agenda.
No problem. We'll be done by the end of the first hour. I left it open for another half hour in case there's any questions about anything else. So,
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
good morning.
Hi, Guido.
Hola.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Tim.
All right.
Hi, Megan.
Morning, afternoon. Hello. Hi, Rich. Hi,
morning.
everyone.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. Good morning or good afternoon, whatever that might be. So, for everybody, definitely good morning for me.
Good morning for me, too.
Yes. Yeah.
Me too.
Good afternoon for me.
Yes.
Yeah, happy lunchtime for me.
Yeah, the same here, Tim. So we might be in the same time zone. You are
Happy
in
Friday for
UK.
everyone.
Whereabouts are you, Alexandra?
I'm in Portugal, so I have the time zone same as UK. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
are in UK, yeah.
So have you got your power back on now?
Yeah,
Did they ever find out what the cause of that was?
no, still no conclusion.
Interesting.
At least they say they don't have a conclusion.
Yeah.
Oh, there is no coincidence when three countries lose everything, energy,
Yeah.
communication at the same time. So,
In 2025, yeah. We are not
yeah.
in the early days of, yeah.
Yeah, you never know about those things. I got to tell you about 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't know if you ever heard about this, but in Hawaii, there is like a warning system in the event of a nuclear attack. And someone inadvertently, it was a manual system, and someone hit the button. And it went out everywhere over all the radios, all over the TVs. And my daughter happened to be vacationing in Hawaii at the time, and so she called me up in an absolute panic, just in tears. What do I do? What do you say at that point? But it turned out to be human error. And so they've changed the system since then. But at that point, it was just simply someone typing a command in somewhere on a computer or hitting a button. And so it caused a lot of mayhem and a lot of people panicking. And she was actually driving. She didn't know if she would need to get out of her car and run someplace or something. And I'm like, what do you say at that point? I don't know. So anyway, yeah, who knows what happened with that power outage? Maybe it was something like that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to give this just another minute or so, and then we're going to get started. I'm going to drop something into chat for everybody to download or use if you want to. I'm going to be showing this on my screen, and you can use pen and paper today. I'm going to walk through this process with everybody. I'm actually going to have you be doing it. So give me just a moment to drop this into chat. And some of you may have already downloaded this previously. All right, so that document's now in chat. So give this just a moment and we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, Rich, we had that document before. It's not suffered any changes. It has it. Have changed it, has it?
No, there's
The
no
same.
changes on it. There's no changes. It's the same. Yep, that's it.
All right.
All right.
Good to revisit that again.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. If anybody else joins us afterwards, we'll just be talking about this for a minute. Before we actually get into this, I'm actually going to be walking each of you through this process, through this group. I have done this core purpose statement, use this tool with individuals quite a few times, but I've also done it with large groups of people. I've worked with Air Force officers here in the United States, working with them on some masterminds and use this with them. So it's a great tool to use not only individually, but with a group as well. And so one of the things that John talked about in level 1 and Sue in level 2, one of the most critical elements of what we do is helping our clients develop that core purpose statement. And it's if you're familiar with Simon Sinek or any of these other things that, developing your why, essentially that's what a core purpose statement is. And it's a very powerful tool to initially get the clients and get ourselves in that mind frame, that mindset about the importance of what it is about what John talks about, creating our masterpiece, creating those elements for ourselves, and really getting a focus on what it is that we need to be doing and why we need to do it. So if I've put this out there for everybody, I'm going to share my screen, and let me know if you have not got a chance to get that document, or if you just got a notepad or pen and paper that you can follow along. One of the things I want to do today, and can everybody see my screen? It says developing your core purpose statement.
Yeah, it's loading. There it is.
There, okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So this is one of the things I don't want to read through this whole first part of this. I've given you that document, and kind of if you would take some time to really read through the first part of this core purpose statement. Today, I want to not so much revisit what the core purpose statement is, but how I start this with clients. And this is something that I don't just simply pass on. and say, read through this and start working on this on your own. I want to get them started down the path of understanding what this core purpose statement is. And it's usually done in one of the very first meetings. Even I start this. You can even start this the same day that you maybe the MLEI debrief or prior to that, because really it only takes about a half hour to 45 minutes, give or take, to really get started and get them understanding this. This is a document that I'll give to them prior, ask them to read through this, explain a little bit about what the core purpose statement is, and why it's so critical. On this, there's just some examples too of maybe some other leaders or some other individuals that have a core purpose statement as well. I would like to share mine. Give me just a moment. And I actually have this on my website. It's one of those things that is important for me to be able to share. Not only my core purpose, but my mission statement and my vision statement. Can everybody see this now on the screen, the core purpose? So my core purpose statement, and this is something that when you're doing your core purpose statement, stepping back here a little bit, this is not something that we expect overnight. It shouldn't be something that is a one and done. This is a living document. It should be something that is continuing to develop throughout their journey. Even to the point within the first 2 or 3 months, if it's not done, it's still one of those things that we want to, I revisit quite often with clients. How are you doing? How are you doing on your core purpose statement? And have them talk to me a little bit about that. But my core purpose statement is to share my journey through life with those people that I love, to continue to develop my roles as a husband, as a father, as a brother, as a son, a friend, a coach, and a servant leader. And as a servant leader, I will always walk alongside those I serve, just as others have walked with me on my journey. That's my core purpose statement. And is it going to stay that way forever? No, probably not. You know, it's like I said, it's a living document. It's something that is continually being developed as time goes on, or changed as time goes on, or becomes more relevant in our lives, or our creating that masterpiece, as John calls it. So let's move on. Let me tell you what I'm going to do today. Let me go back to sharing my screen. I'm creating a core purpose statement. We're actually going to walk through this, and let me stop sharing for just a minute. For all of you that are here, so please take out a pen and paper, or use this document that you have. And this is what I actually do with my clients. I don't give it to them just to have them go off on their own. I actually start it, and I'm going to do it the exact same way that I start with them. I'm going to do that with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one of these questions, and then I'm going to give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes each on each one of those questions to just start writing down the answers to that question, or things that come into your mind. And the trick to this really is not to overthink it. Write it down. Get it out. No fair doing this on a computer. No fair doing this on your phone. It has to be pen to paper. Pen to paper, pencil to paper, whatever that might be. So there's a lot that can happen in 3 minutes. If you ask why 3 minutes, 3 minutes is longer than you think when you start doing this type of exercise. And does that mean it's a 3 minutes only, and then we put this away? No. What I want our clients to do, and those people that I'm working with to do, is to start really digging deep, start really reflecting on these things. Not so much as simply a homework assignment, but really helping them to start to change that mindset around what it is that we do. So for those of us who are just joining us, I'm going to hurry and drop that again back into chat 'cause I know if you so if you want to grab that, if you can. If not, no worries. I'm going to have it on my screen. And again, we're going to just start working through this. So let me share my screen once again. So the first part of this, again, I'm just going to leave for you to read through this and kind of get an understanding of what this is. Because once we work through this, developing your core purpose statement, the understanding of what around what this is and how we start developing this will be pretty clear. So here we go. Remember, these are 3 minutes, 3 minutes each for these questions, and I'll time these and let you know how we do and where we are in the time. But again, just write it down, let those thoughts go, just make notes. So the first one is, what do you most value in your life and about your life, and why? First question, 3 minutes, go. Okay, 1 minute left. Okay, next question. So, how effectively and consistently do you appreciate and embrace those things in your life that you do value? Explain. 3 minutes. Go. 1 minute left. All right, next question. And just real quick too, before we go into the next question, if you do have this in front of you, don't jump ahead. Stay focused on the one that we are working on at that time. That's want to stay focused. That 3 minutes is pretty important. Well, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but stay focused on that question. So, next one. What in your professional life would be the one thing you would want to accomplish that would bring you ultimate joy and happiness, and why? 3 minutes. All right, 1 minute. Okay, next question. What in your personal life would be the one thing you would want to accomplish that would bring you ultimate joy and happiness? Why? 3 minutes. Go. 1 minute. Okay, next question. So throughout your life to date, who has touched your heart, mind, and soul? Who has enriched you and your life through their character, intellect, personality, and presence? 3 minutes. Go. All right, 1 minute. All right, next question. What qualities have you most admired in those individuals who have had a deep impact on you? What qualities have you most admired in those individuals who have had a deep impact on you? 3 minutes. Go. All right, 1 minute. Okay, next question. Which of these qualities do you value enough to include in your own core purpose statement? Which of those qualities do you value enough to include in your own CPS? 3 minutes, go. Okay, gonna stop here for just a minute. So, give you a chance to shake your hand out, whatever. How many thought that 3 minutes before was not a very long time? Yeah, there's a lot that can happen in 3 minutes. And it's not so much that we are just getting through this exercise quickly. You're going to find that a lot of your clients or the people you do this with, there's a lot of fear involved first, people to really take a deep look at some of this. You're going to find some of that. But this next part of the exercise is about leaving your legacy. And when we talk about leaving legacy, it's with what John talks about, what we've probably all talked about with our clients. Leadership isn't just about work, right? It's not how we show up in the office, but it's how we show up in the community. It's how we show up with our families, how we show up with our friends. So really, it's that legacy. What is our legacy going to be left? What is it? What is that? Those final things. So this is getting into this next part, and maybe preparing your clients. You can read this ahead of time. Once we go through this, after we finish this next exercise, I'll tell you I've had grown men in tears in groups. I had an Air Force colonel come up to me afterwards, said that just this few moments changed his entire outlook on what he needed to be focused on in his life. So here we go. Are you ready for this next step? Yeah, good. Everybody ready? Okay. So this next part, and if you can see my screen again, leaving your legacy exercise. And so this is about projecting yourself forward, visualize the end of life, right? Not an easy thing to visualize. And for a lot of people, it's not a comfortable experience. But you're surrounded by your loved ones, friends, and the colleagues you have touched along your life's journey. One by one, they lean over to whisper their final words to you. So, a couple things to consider as you're doing this. What would each person whisper to you? What differences have you made in their life? What qualities or characteristics will you be remembered for? And what outstanding contribution of yours would they mention? So here's the first one. In the role of a family leader, you being that role of a family leader, who is whispering their final words to you? And here's what they would say. 3 minutes. Go. All right, 1 minute. All right, next one. In the role of a friend, who is whispering their final words to you? And here's what they would say. And again, that's in the role of a friend. Who's whispering their final words? 3 minutes. One minute. All right. Next question. Okay. In the role of business colleague, of a business colleague, who is whispering their final words to you? And here's what they would say. 1 minute. Okay, next question. In the role of a business leader, who is whispering their final words to you? And here's what they would say. 3 minutes, go. One minute. All right, next one. In the role of community leader, who is whispering their final words to you? And here's what they would say. 3 minutes. Okay. That was the final question here. So you can put your pens down, pencils down, whatever. Shake your hand out. So from here on out is really about those homework assignments. Giving this, now you've started your client or you've started personally working on these areas. So this is leaving your legacy exercise reflection. Talks about in the space below writing your reactions to the messages that were whispered to you. So what are your reflections? What are your commitments going forward? And then developing your own core purpose statement, starting to compile this information and all these questions that you've just written down. And then working on towards building that core purpose statement, putting that into a way that makes sense for you. It could be a paragraph, could be a sentence, could be a poem. I've had people put theirs in a song. I've had them sung to me before. And then, you work through these things. You keep writing that draft of your core purpose statement. Keep working on that. This is an actual example, if you can see this, of one of John's clients. This is what they put into their core purpose statement. So you can see there's no right, there's no wrong. Working with yourself or working with your clients, how to really start developing this core purpose statement. But it's all based on these questions that you just answered. So I'm going to stop sharing here. That's pretty straightforward, pretty simple information that you can use with your clients. So I'm going to ask you a question real quick. I know that we've got some time left. So how many of you have done something like this or similar? How many of you today maybe thought, wow, there's something more to this IL process? Maybe something a little bit more than just the MLEI or the 360 or those assessments. There's something a little bit deeper, right? And that's why it's this core purpose statement, starting this right up front. When we, even before the MLEI, helping to get them in the mindset that, this isn't going to be just about executive coaching or business development, or that there's going to be much more. John talks so much about creating your masterpiece. And what is that? What is your masterpiece? So let's stop right there. And I kind of want to open this up a little bit. What are your thoughts on this, about using this tool? And maybe about the way that we did this. This is a way that I found that it's a very powerful way to get them introduced to this. Because if you don't help them get started, or it seems like just another one of those things that becomes a stack of papers on their desk or whatever. But once you start them down this path, this way, then it's in their mind. You start, these questions start to become very powerful motivators for what we need to do going forward. So I'm going to open this up a little bit. What's your thoughts on this, Sven?
Yeah, so very powerful, especially because we walk through this together, right? You're kind of forced to think. And there I was wondering, now you let us now off the hook. And okay, now reflect, go home, reflect, and next session we're gonna take this up again with your reflections, with your commitments, with the other questions, because you got somebody on your back to walk you through this and to exercise some pressure, I think is very powerful. Otherwise, it may lose the power that we just experienced. So I think that's a momentum we have to keep, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, great point. Great point. Claudia, I'll just go as I see the hands coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Hi, everybody. I agree with what Sven said, and also what allowed me to see is the void. In other words, in areas and aspects that I have not developed. So it's interesting to see the unbalanced of where you put all your energy and where you lack that energy of being present or so on. For example, in my case was the community. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And I was also in my mind, I have this little parrot that is talking to me and says, would one of my clients spend all this time doing this, depending on the age gap and so on. So that was also something interesting to deal with. But thank you. It was a great exercise. Yeah.
Thank you. Interesting you said that the age difference, right?
Mm.
You know, I'll tell you what, thinking back as if I was younger, when I was younger, some of those questions, I wouldn't have been thinking about any of those things. But yet there's still that critical point, in our lives. It's just like investing, right? The earlier you start investing in things in your life, the more you make later on, the more that starts to compound later on. And so it's just one of those areas that if you start investing early or start realizing these things earlier in life, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of that I wish I had have thought about earlier in life, but it's one of those things. Timothy.
Yeah, good morning. I kind of, my comments are kind of similar to what Claudia says. Beyond a core purpose statement, I think it's a wonderful way to explore some gaps in the coachee's life and then use that to leverage the coaching. It was kind of sad actually when I went through it, how much is missing in my life and how much I have to make up. And it was a wake-up call. And I think it could be the same thing for other people as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Timothy. Absolutely. And it's a good exercise to come back to occasionally, right? That course correction. And John talks a lot about course correction. You can't correct something that's not measured, right? You can't improve something that's not measured. This is one of those measurement tools as well, personal measurement tools. So, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Great exercise. And it must be something with the name Timothy. Tim, very similar thoughts in terms of actually what's missing, which then actually, for some, this can be incredibly inspirational thing, but for others, it could leave quite a sort of difficult situation in the missing pieces. And I wonder what support we can give to each of us, because in coaching, there's often an opportunity to take things to supervision when we've had quite a difficult emotional interaction. I can imagine this being quite emotional, particularly if you've got somebody that's running out of time, hasn't got legacy and missing bits, quite an emotional thing. And I wonder how we support each other.
Outstanding comments, and question there, Tim. Realizing that, we have left a legacy, right? How do we continue to support that? Javier.
Yeah, thanks, Rich, for sharing your time and your experience on this best practice. Although it's not a new concept, it's a known strategy for many of us. I think it's beautifully styled in a very effective way, the different set of questions, and so it's great. It's great for that. I have a very practical question, an operational level. Do you use this script on a 60 or on a 90-minute session? Because 3 minutes per 11 questions is almost an hour through a distillation. So it's quite a very powerful but a long exercise. So I wonder how are you able to manage that into a 60-minute session?
It's a great question. And I've found that 3 minutes is very, It's a lot longer than you think, right? 3 minutes per question. It gives you a lot of time to reflect, but perhaps, Javier, a couple minutes, per question. And really what the idea is around this is to help them get started down the path doing this. Yeah, and an hour can be quite a long time to go through this exercise. And this is what I have found to be effective in the past. And it generally takes, that close to an hour, right? But what if you change that to 2 minutes, or you broke this up in a couple different sessions? You started maybe the first half of this and helped them start that, then maybe the second half at a different time. So yeah, that's something you need to, I guess, through yourself, the time that you work with your clients, getting to understand the time that you have, and that would really be something that you would probably need to adjust. But I agree, if you do it all like we did today, it's the better part of an hour.
Yeah. And what has worked better for you? Just to do in the session these questions and leave the client to work out the statement, or you spend time with him or her creating these last paragraphs?
Later on, I do. This is something that you send them home with the rest of this, and give them a chance to kind of digest, everything they did. You're going to find, I'm going to tell you, you're going to find people who are very moved by this exercise that have never done this before, never thought about this before. And as coaches, you mentioned, this is not a new concept, but for many, it's going to be new. And so, yeah, helping them through that process. You're welcome, Javier. Thank you for the question. Nicole.
Sorry, I was just writing something down. A very interesting exercise. I was familiar with it, but it struck me that I made my first one like 20 years ago. And it struck me what can change in 20 years. Like I'm now in sort of the harvest time of my life, which changes what I wrote down. It was very nice to see. And I have to deliver here and there something more. I also noticed, so that's kind of challenging. And thank you for that. And I really like the idea of doing this together, because normally I tend to think, okay, I did 3 questions, the next ones I'll do tomorrow. But doing this process, forcefully in 3 minutes per question helps. And you come in kind of a flow, I noticed. And that I really liked. So I saw the themes coming up, and it was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for the comments. Fiona.
Yeah, everybody, really in agreement with what Claudia and some of the other people have said about it. Really does show you the things that are maybe missing in your life. I actually did this by myself, and it was quite interesting now doing it with the group. When I was doing it by myself, I kind of felt blocked and a bit stressed if I need to get this right. And that's part of me, and Claudia knows that. But I did get my core statement out because I have an accountability partner here. But I think it was a really beautiful exercise to do together. And I think there is something maybe about having the flexibility to maybe do this in 1 or 2 sessions, because there may be a part of this that really triggers something. If you do something maybe with the family, and you realize, I don't even know what my family might say, for example. But the thing that really excites me about this, Rich, is something that you've said and during the sessions before, is that this is leading to transformational change. And if we can really take our time over this core statement, it is our GPS, not only for our work life, but for life in general. And I think, as you say, I work with executives, I think they've got some idea sometimes, but to really do this and take the time to do this, I think will make a big impact in the results that we have in the coaching and the program as a whole.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fiona. I actually had an executive that I worked with that mentioned something to me. And we've all heard it's lonely at the top, right? You know, sometimes you get in these C-level positions and they forget in a lot of ways about those individuals that are supporting them. And that was the feedback that I got. I'm not, saying that feedback that I got, that this helped this individual realize that they're not alone. This is not something they're facing by themselves. So yeah, did you want to share your core purpose statement, Fiona? Yes, no? You don't have to. No.
I mean, I took it from a statement that I have in my head that I've always had, which is the world should be a better place after a person has lived. That's what I've had from a very young age. And I mean, I'm not good at drawing, I'm not good at poetry, so it's just a statement. I mean, I can read it, and if anybody, I just put to inspire and encourage myself and others to live a life that in some way contributes to the world being a better place, to treat everyone with respect and kindness, to be an example of integrity, honesty, and compassion for my family, friends, colleagues, and clients, to allow my light to shine and encourage others to do the same, to meet fear with courage, anger with kindness, and despair with hope, to see the beauty in the small things and live from a place of gratitude, following the path of my spiritual journey and source of peace. And
thank you.
As I read that, I feel emotional. And I also felt that as I went through the questions, this core statement brings my grandmother, my mother, my colleagues, my friends, because it's through answering the questions that I got to this. So
that's an interesting comment. Now we'll get to Eric and Nelson in just a moment. But if you listen to my podcast where Magda Mook was on there here about a week or so ago, and I asked her that question, who is it that you value? What is there somebody in your life? And if you remember, if you've listened to it, she went to her grandmother, who she's never met in her life. She'd never met her grandmother. But knowing the stories of how she faced trials in her life has given her strength there. So again, who knows who this is going to touch, right? Your legacy is going to touch beyond this. And that's one of those things that we really focus in on this IL process. Who are you really touching? Why is it critical to really create that masterpiece? So, and for Magda, that was one of those things that has been helping her is, someone she's never even met. So, all righty, Eric.
Yeah, first of all, Fiona, wonderful core purpose statement. Thank you for sharing that thoughtful statement and having the courage to do so. Rich, brilliant exercise. I think it's wonderful that we do this. And it reminds me that it's kind of a gift that we are helping them give themselves and that most people have not gone through this. They probably wouldn't ask for it. And yet it's a gift that when they get it, after they do it, they'll probably appreciate it. So I'm interested, and especially all the great comments that we've heard today, as we go forward collectively, how do we emotionally prepare them before they get the great euphoric feeling of having that gift, having to step out on that emotional ledge? How do we prepare them to do that so that they can go forward and put out what's really in their mind versus what they think other people want them to say, kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how all of you do that, and I look forward to learning from you. So thanks for that.
That's a great question and a great comment, Eric. How do you prepare people for something like this? I think letting them know ahead of time is what the IL path, those initial chemistry calls, and what's gonna happen. Part of what we're going to be working on is that core purpose statement. And I don't know that you can prepare everybody emotionally for this. It's like I said, I've seen so many different emotional responses from doing this. And even with a large group of individuals, seeing, the different emotional responses, let alone one-on-one. So great question. And if anybody has a good answer to that, I'm all ears. But again, I think it's preparing them up front. What's this IL process like? What's this journey going to be like? And again, it's that safe space, regardless. No judgment, no anything, just that safe space.
Yeah, likely they have to go through it to appreciate it, and we can't really prepare them for what that will be, except, like you say, prepare a safe space where they feel they can do it. So,
Right.
yeah, thanks for that.
All right, thank you, Eric. By the way, where you at? You back here in Utah, or are you in Montana today?
No, I'm up in the mountains of Montana, looking mostly
Right.
at cows this morning.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's a lovely place.
Yeah, Eric's not too far from where I am right now. So he's up in Montana. I'm jealous. So all right. Nelson.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rich. Thank you for reliving this again. It's amazing. I was doing the exercise and comparing to the initial core purpose statement I had done and how this is an organic material, how this evolves. And I'm writing today, when I look at my paragraph, it's getting bigger. And I believe that there are actually two things I'd like to say. The first one is that I believe we should do this before the MLEI, because we could prepare through the core statement purpose, through the coachee's purpose, some sort of approach to somehow soothe the derailing aspects he or she may have in the Enneagram results. Yeah. The second one is through this process of discovery. I'd like to quote Marianne Williamson, who says something that I believe is true to every one of us. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are we not to be? And I think this is the essence of my discovery through these almost 3 years dealing with core purpose statement. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody, for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for that too, Nelson. Savina just brought something up in chat that's very interesting. And maybe, Savina, are you there? Maybe I'll have you just kind of mention that. You talked about cultural differences.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm out of camera, but I'm here. What I'm saying is about preparing our clients. I think some cultures are more used to speak about themselves in a natural way. So I imagine myself entering a group of people in Argentina, and I think this kind of exercise is not that far away from other exercises that people do. So I don't feel this as something so shocking, but it's very deep and and I think it can be very impactful. But I don't think this can be as shocking as when you enter a room in the US, because the culture is different. People are not used to speak so openly about their personal lives in every culture. And I've worked a lot in Brazil for many years, and I know in Brazil some parts of this will be difficult differently from what I know from Argentina. So that's my point. In every culture, there are different sensitivities that we need to be aware. And in that sense, to have a coach from inside the same culture can help, of course, to be easier for the coach to understand what parts of this can be sensitive and to prepare their clients to that.
Great point, Savina. Great comments. I got to tell you, I've worked a lot in Hong Kong, and I can tell you that there's parts of this, and depending on religious beliefs as well, would be a real struggle for some of those individuals. So, again, great point. Getting to know your client maybe prior a little bit, that chemistry call, that IL behavioral interview, getting to know them a little bit would probably set the stage for you to prepare them for that safe space, right? So, excellent. Thank you for bringing that up, Savina. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on this? So did everybody enjoy this today? Was it good exercise? All right. Good. All right. So if there's nothing else, I'll put this video out there where everybody can see this. And again, it's great to see you all. I actually got to get ready I got tapped to speak at a conference this morning. I've been doing for several years. I've worked also as a job coach, working with people that are out of work or trying to get back into the workforce. So I've got about a mastermind I got to teach this morning in front of about 200 people. So I've got to go and get ready for that here in just a minute. So yeah, Eric asked a question. Let me give you an update on the Santander contract. As for those of you who I've not brought up to date on that. So I'm going to go back to January. January, there was a portal that we had to get approved in. And we went through this whole portal process. Took quite a bit of time, quite a bit of due diligence on our end to get that done. And once we got approved, then they started the contract issues on their end. They started preparing it. They sent it out to me. I did all the work on my end, sent it back to them, and it's been a little more than a month since I sent it back, and we were constantly asking if you got it done on your end. There was supposed to just be a DocuSign. It was supposed to be a simple process, but apparently someone at Santander didn't think we had done the portal. And so they were holding this on their desk, essentially, this contract. And the sad thing about it is this same person had been copied on several emails. And finally, we just got everybody on a phone call, and it's like, you explain to us, what are we missing, because we were approved. And then this person went in and looked, and yeah, we were approved in the portal, and they apologized. The sad thing is it was just an assumption on somebody's part. It was sitting on their desk thinking that we hadn't completed this. So now, this was last week. I was expecting the DocuSign any day this week. Me and Nick have been watching for it closely, because now they apologized profusely. We had several other individuals come to us and apologize for the holdup and for the miscommunication on their end. So again, the good thing about this is that our 3-year contract doesn't start until I sign the DocuSign. So it's not like we're running out of time. We just been being held up, and trust me, there are individuals out there, and we've actually had some of the HR groups going back to corporate saying, we're waiting for you guys. We can't proceed until you give us the go ahead, but we've got people waiting to get coached. And Tim will tell you, is in the UK, which is one of the first groups that really got involved in this. They've got people lined up now. Same thing with other regions. People are lined up waiting, going, what the heck's the holdup? So as soon as that contract drops, everything's in place, and then it's full speed ahead. But if there's anybody that's more frustrated than probably you are, it would be me. So trying to deal with these things. And here's the thing too, if this is indicative of maybe the culture that's going on and the lack of communication, the sad thing is these people are in the same office. The main person we've been dealing with and the person who was holding it up on their desk, they're in the same office. So if they can't communicate it, across the office, what's it like elsewhere? So might be a good challenge for us. Good understanding what's going on. So does that answer your question? Yeah. It's been a lot of interesting conversation. So to get this through, and finally, they understand it wasn't on our end; it's on theirs. So okay. Any other questions, real quick, before we're done? All right. Yes, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time today. And I'll get this video up. And again, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, want to get with me, let me know. It's good to see everybody. Always good to see everybody.
Good performance on that conference, Rich. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, everyone.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
goodbye.